Rin here, and today I am going to be talking about Tales of the Shadowhunter Academy! So, in the November time, the physical copy of Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy by Cassandra Clare, Sarah Rees Brennan, Maureen Johnson and Robin Weisenman came out as a big binder. For those of you that don't know, this is a selection of novellas or short stories based after City of Heavenly Fire, the final book in Cassandra Clare's Mortal Instruments series, and before the first book in the sequel series to the Mortal Instruments, The Dark Artifices. It focuses on Simon Lewis and his life after City of Heavenly Fire and what happens to him, because he sort of is one of the only people who doesn't get kind of like a conclusive ending at the end of City of Heavenly Fire, and there were so many questions left unanswered. These came out last year as ebooks. They were once a month from February to November, all of 2015, and I maybe did 2 reviews. I definitely did a review of Born to Endless Night, but I can't remember if I did another one as well. But I just wanted to do a kind of talk about the whole wrap up and bind up and talk about all of it because I loved these stories so much. This is going to be spoilery. The non-spoilery section of this video is basically me saying what I always say. The Mortal Instruments is a fantastic series. Everything to do with it I love. She just keeps building on this world and adding more things, and it's so wonderful and brilliant and fantastic, and I just love this whole world so much, and these extra stories are so good. And if you have read the Mortal Instruments but haven't read these, please read them. They're such a good addition. They add so much. They're so good. They're so good. I made an entire video about which order to read them in, which I will put down below if you don't know what I'm talking about and you don't know when you should read this and stuff. But I honestly think it was something, read after City of Heavenly Fire and before The Dark Artifices. I think the extra information really helps when reading The Dark Artifices. This copy also has artwork in it from Cassandra Jean, and it's so beautiful. Look at it. It's like, it's artwork. It's artwork, and it's so good. It is at the start of every story, and it's so wonderful. It's such a nice edition, and I love it so much. So yes, non-spoiler people, leave, because I don't want to ruin it for you, but please go and read this. When I first started to read these books, I've read it since, again, to like refresh my memory and know what they were all about again. You think it's just going to be about Simon and his life at the Shadowhunter Academy, but then you realise that it's never really just about Simon, is it? It's never really just about that one character. Like the Bane Chronicles, it was never really just about Magnus. It was to learn so much more and to build up things for the Dark Artifices, but to also build up things for the last hours and to just add so much more to the general story and the general world that we know. It was so interesting to see the Shadowhunter Academy and to see how it works. And obviously this isn't the Shadowhunter Academy that would have been the Shadowhunter Academy systems that happened years before, because this is the academy being rebuilt and trying to reopen after the wars that we've just experienced and after Valentine and everything that has happened from that. It's currently a 2-year program, and we're sort of seeing the Shadowhunter world trying to be rebuilt and trying to get these new Shadowhunters and build these new Shadowhunters up so that they can have a new generation and have these new people that are going to fight. The Clave is in a place right now which is basically just, they're scared. Right now is basically the Ministry of Magic when Harry says Voldemort is back. Like, they are terrified, and even though these wars have happened, they are really scared it's going to happen again, and they've banished the wrong people. They've got this cold peace going on, which I don't think has properly been established in this yet, even though it's been established in Lady Midnight. We see that the Clave are scared and they're trying to build up their Shadowhunters and trying to get more so that they know they've got an army and they've got people that they can rely on and fight with. It's a really interesting place at this time when Simon enters the Shadowhunter Academy. It does kind of open up slowly. The first couple are learning about the academy and everything that Simon is doing and going through, so they do start slow, but they do definitely really improve as they start going on. I really like the fact that they really explored Simon's feelings. He is a bit of an idiot to Isabel, and I totally, like, it really annoyed me when he says, like, I'm not your boyfriend, and the stuff he was saying to her. I think the thing with this is it really explores how Simon is feeling, because he's had his entire memories erased. He had his entire life over the course of the whole Mortal Instruments books just completely taken away from him, and even his life before that with Clary, he doesn't remember Clary, and he had so much taken away from him that being around these people must be really weird for him. That's something he's not just gonna get over. His body has had to go through so many different transformations, becoming a vampire, becoming human again, becoming a daylight, and the psychological and physical aspects of that to recover from that must be absolutely, like, just so difficult. So I was really happy that they explored that and explored that, you know, he's not just going to be all fine and dandy after this, and there's going to be a lot going on in his head. We didn't just get Simon though, we met new people. George, who I love. I love George. He was so good. The ending killed me. Got to experience the other characters by going to different periods of time through guest lecturers, which I think was really cool. They basically were coming in to tell stories and then we would be transported back into that world. One of those was our good friend Tessa. Tessa Gray, Herondale, cast as Tessa. She was a guest lecturer in the Whitechapel Fiend, which was one of my favourite ones, and I saw Whitechapel and I was like, that's in London. Will! It goes back, it's Tessa, Will, and they've got baby James and they're trying to solve the Jack the Ripper murders, and then there's like this demon and all that. Like, it was kind of really scary because this demon put all the children in the chimney and hid them in there, and it was terrifying. It was like really scary, like it just went really dark, and there was lots of things going on in London at that time, and obviously that's what The Last Hours is going to be. We're going to be exploring that. The main character of The Last Hours is James Herondale, so their son and his story, and we know there's some stuff going on with him. We also saw Ghost Jessamine, and she was helping, and I was just so glad that she was there and she was just helping out, and just that her memory hadn't completely gone and that she was still around and she was still helping. Same with Jem. I love the fact they still always call the Silent Brothers. They always call that one specific Silent Brother when they need help, and he's still such a big part of their lives and of their children's lives. In the Bane Chronicles we see that they call them Uncle Jem, so I'm so glad that they still have that connection, and it really shows how strong the bond between Will, Tessa and Jem was. There was also the Lost Herondale story, which when I first read this last year I was like, I wonder if this is going to be explored in Lady Midnight, and spoilers if you have read Lady Midnight, I'll go like this when Lady Midnight spoilers have gone away because I don't want to ruin it. It was explored, and it was really weird reading it in hindsight and being like, I know who that is now, like he's gonna pop up, like oh! The Lost Herondale story is there was a Shadowhunter who was Tobias Herondale, who was told that his wife was being tortured, so he left the Shadowhunters to go and help her, and then she, who was pregnant, was punished for it, and then Katerina took the baby away and raised the baby, and that's the story that we get told, and it's kind of like, is it actually a thing? Like, is there actually a Lost Herondale? And it's explored, and it was just like, so there's like another Herondale there, you know, like that's a thing. I'm so excited for Lord of Shadows. I just need to know so much more. Like, this is another Herondale that we're talking about here. I just need to know what that situation is and how that's going to be explored, and how did Tessa and Jem even find him. Speaking of Katerina, we saw her and Magnus's friendship. We saw more of that, and they also, I believe, if I remember rightly, they had a chat about Ragnar and losing Ragnar and that whole situation, and it's so sad. We just see Magnus and Katerina talk about that. Ragnar was one of their oldest friends, and again, that was something that wasn't just going to be, they were fine afterwards, and I really liked the fact that they could talk about their feelings and how they felt about that whole situation and what they were doing and how they felt now Ragnar wasn't there anymore. We got to see quite a lot of Jace, and as I got to the end of the Mortal Instruments, Jace was going through so much stuff that to me he started to not feel as much like Jace, because he was going through so much and there was so much that he was suffering with, and in this he was so funny and sarcastic, and he really just felt like Jace was back and that he was feeling much better after everything that was going on, and I was really happy to see Jace so happy and so jokey and having such a good time. I really liked the moments he had with him and Simon, the just kind of little things he kept making up, like the Wiggles. It was your nickname. You always used to tell us to call you Wiggles and that kind of thing. It was just so good, and I just really liked seeing more of Jace. Then we had the Nothing of Shadows one, where we see a slightly older James Herondale coming to the Shadowhunter Academy, and again back in time, and he is stuck living up to his dad's name and reputation, and he doesn't feel as good as Will. He's the main character of The Last Hours, and in this he meets Matthew Fairchild, who is Henry and Charlotte's son, and they become Parabatai. And I really liked when Matthew was asking about why they were going to the Silent Brothers, and it's a bit extreme, and James was like, don't, like, it's best not to talk about my dad and his connection to the Shadowhunters. Like, just let him go. And also in that we meet Thomas Lightwood, who is Sophie and Gideon's son, and I wonder if because of the Gideon, that's the direct line to Alex, so is that Alex ancestors, which is really cool. And we also meet Christopher Lightwood, who is Cecily and Gabriel's child, and obviously Cecily was Will's sister, so like they're all related, and it's really cool. I love seeing that, and I'm so excited for The Last Hours and being able to see all of these characters in so much more depth. I honestly think I'm more excited for The Last Hours than I am for the second Dark Artifice. It's been so long since I've been in Will's and Tessa and Jem's like 1800s like London world. I really want more of that. I've been in the Mortal Instruments and Dark Artifices like present day for a really long time, and I love it so much, but I'm so ready to go back. We also learn in this that James, due to the demon side of him, because Tessa is half Shadowhunter, half Warlock, that he can just basically turn into nothing. Like, he can become almost like a ghost. Things can go through him, he can go through things, and then he can come back into himself, and I'm really interested to see how that will play out and how we can see that happen. That's obviously going to be quite a big part of him as a character, and I think it'll be really explored in the last hours. I really hope that it is. It will be interesting as well because Matthew and James become Parabatai, and I'll be interested to see that dynamic and at what point will we jump into their lives. Will they already be Parabatai or not? I'm interested to see how that all comes about. The thing that I really liked about this is that, like I was saying earlier about the Clave being scared, it really showed throughout the generations the attitude that the Clave has on people and for different people, and just the way that they handle people that aren't Shadowhunters. They're so discriminative, and it's explored through so many generations, and we see it in so many generations as we're going back through this story. We also learn about Robert Lightwood's history, which was really interesting, and I still don't particularly love the guy, but we learn about him. Some Shadowhunters can't bear their first marks, and they usually die, and he couldn't bear them, and his parents were like disgusted by the fact that they had a child that could not bear these marks. Some miracle happened and he survived, but that really had an impact on him and his relationships with his parents. So I'm wondering if that now impacted the way that he was with Michael Wayland, who was in love with him even though he was his Parabatai. Did he not want to betray his family even more by potentially pursuing a relationship with him? I don't know Robert's actual feelings towards Michael Wayland, or maybe he just didn't even want to support it because he knew how his family and how the Clave would react if that was something that he did. And again, that's something that he's seeing in Alec, and that throughout the story of him and Alec's relationship he didn't want. And I just wonder if it's like this internalized, you will be shunned by the Clave, and I know how that feels to be shunned by family and the world that you live in, and I don't want that for you. But he went about it in a really crappy way. Obviously I'm not defending what he did, but we just saw more of his backstory, and it's not an excuse for everything he did, because what he did was disgusting and the way he treated Alec was not nice at all. But it may be the reason, and it may give you that little bit more of an insight. We also see the circle and like the beginnings of the circle and the way that Valentine is trying to get these people and recruit these people. And it was just really interesting to see how all of that went wrong so quickly. It wasn't what everyone thought they were kind of signing up for, and it became so much worse. We also learned that Valentine's father was killed by a werewolf, which again kind of explains his hatred for them. Doesn't excuse it, but we just get that little bit extra backstory as to why some of the characters may behave the way that they do. Not an excuse. Not an excuse, but the reason. Having someone's backstory really gives you a new perspective on them, and even though you cannot forgive them or excuse what they have done, you just kind of understand a little bit more why. We had Pale Kissing Princess and Bitter of Tongue, and these two were really heavily like building up for the Dark Artifices. We see Helen Blackthorn and the way that she is being treated, because her and her brother Mark are the oldest Blackthorns. They are half brother and sister to Julian and all the others because their mum was Fae. Because of that, they are being treated differently. Mark is kind of locked up and he's going a bit mad, and you're kind of thinking, is he going to be okay, and how's that going to have an effect? And I'm still thinking that's going to like play a part in the next Dark Artifices, because he is not going to have been in the best mindset after everything that happened. Elaine and Helen did get married, and I did like that. It's not fair that they have to live somewhere else. It's not fair that they can't be with their family, and I want them to get them back, and I'm hoping that's something that does happen within all the Dark Artifices. It's so weird now reading it in hindsight after reading Lady Midnight, because there's just so much that I just want to like shout at. Then we had the Fiery Trial, which was all about Parabatai. Simon and Clary have decided that they are going to be Parabatai, and they go and watch Julian and Emma's Parabatai ceremony, and this is what annoyed me the first time, and it annoyed me again the second time, is Simon being Simon and knowing what it's like to be in love with your best friend, knows that Julian is slightly unsure and is clearly harbouring not so platonic feelings for Emma. What does he do? Does he talk to Julian and say to him, if you don't want to do it right now, you don't have to? Does he talk to Julian and say, tell Emma how you feel? Does he stop this? No, he lets it happen. They become Parabatai, and we all know how that goes down in Late Midnight. And I just don't know. Simon, you should have stopped him from doing it. So painful. Like, I'm still wondering how on earth they're gonna get around the whole Emma and Julian thing, or are they just not going to? Like, am I too much of a hopeful book reader that there will be some way out of this? And then we have Born to Endless Night, and obviously over the course of this, Simon and Izzy are getting back together. They get back together. Simon stops being an idiot. He tells Izzy he loves her. They go on dates. They're wonderful. They're Sizzy. I love Sizzy. But Born to Endless Night, the main point of it, and I did an entire review video of this, so I'll link that below so you can watch the entire video in its whole depth on Born to Endless Night. It is when Simon finds a abandoned blue-skinned warlock baby on the steps of the academy, and Alec basically takes one look at him, because him and Magnus are there because Magnus is a guest lecturer, and it's like, this is our baby now, Magnus, we are adopting this little boy. Magnus needs a little bit more time to think about it, and I really liked the way that he did think about it, and he was basically being presented with what he was, like, this is an unwanted child, which is what Magnus was, and he is now going to give that child everything that he wasn't given, and he's going to give them love and a family and support and a parent and parents and a brother. They name him Max Michael. I'm so in love with that whole family, and it just really shows lots about Alec and how much he's grown and how he becomes so different, and he's not the boy that we meet at the start of City of Bones, and I'm so proud of him. And he's made mistakes along the way, and some of them were not defendable, but he has grown and he becomes a much stronger and better person, and so does Magnus, and I love them, and I want just stories about them and Max and Raphael all the time now, please. And finally, because, you know, give me soppy feels and then rip my heart out, we have Angel's Ties Descending. Simon becomes a Shadowhunter. He gets all of his memories back. He remembers Clary and Izzy, and just the way that it's so emotional, and just he remembers everything, and it just felt so like, oh, he's okay, and he gets his ending, and he gets to be with everyone, and it was so happy. And then George Lovelace doesn't become a Shadowhunter, and I get that obviously that had to happen. Like, I guess it's sort of like because he's not a main character, and where would he fit in? But he doesn't, and he died, and he didn't ascend, and it didn't work, and he couldn't take it, and his body couldn't take it, and it was so emotional, and I just recovered from this like Born to Endless Night, really soppy, happy families, and then I was just crying because no. And Simon says that his Shadowhunter name is going to be Lovelace, and he's going to carry on that, and I know that Jessamine will be with George in the afterlife. So yes, I loved this. What did you think of Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy? What was your favourite? Tell me down below, we'll discuss it. I think mine was either Born to Endless Night or The Whitechapel Fiend, or even Nothing But Shadows. I really liked those three. They were really good. They were the ones I was like really invested, like so invested when I was reading. And when I was rereading them, they just made me really happy. And the artwork is just so good, and I love it. And Shadowhunters, and More Instruments, and Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy. Yeah. Simon. If you want to hear I make bookish videos a couple of times a week, so if you would like to stick around and join us, then you can do that. And as usual, all of my links will be in the description below if you would like to come hang out with me on other social media. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you're doing really, really, really well, and I will see you next time. Goodbye!